Let's
One more minute. Look at you match. Your mask matches your coat.
Always good to be some.
Ready?
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
All right, Tony, let's go ahead and call to order the Economic Development meeting for tonight, January 10th, 2022. Can you do the roll call?
Jerry Cabasco, Kirsten Erickson,
Here.
Robert Perry,
Here.
Tracy Smadilla,
Here.
Nanette Gutenkoff,
Here.
Joel Laporte,
Here.
Adam Lewinsky. Lewinsky's here. Not done yet. Michelle Hughes
Here.
and Robert Gorski.
Here.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum tonight.
Perfect.
Quorum.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the November 8th, 2021 minutes. Any comments?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect, thank you very much. All right, public comments. Does anyone want to make a public comment?
Okay, everyone's in favor of the minutes, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I moved right past it. Is everyone in favor of approving the moments?
Aye. Yep.
Aye.
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 Thanks.
Perfect. All right, anyone care to make a public comment? Going once. Joey, there's nobody on the phone besides Michelle? Okay, perfect. All right. Then if there's no comments, let's go ahead and move on to the Banbury Fair BEDA application.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson and EDC members, and Happy New Year to you, and thanks for coming out to tonight's meeting. And we hope to bring a lot of interesting projects and updates and lively discussions this year to continue the economic development of this great town. I think we have a lot of good things on the horizon. And so we're starting this year's EDC with a petition. I would say a very good business to start the year off, Banbury Fair. Probably you don't have to go too deep into detail about this business you're all familiar with, and I'm sure you've all been there many times. What you may not know is that they've been there now for 38 years. I was thinking a little bit tonight about what the downtown might have been like 38 years ago, and there were still industrial buildings around and a lot fewer buildings and residences in the area than there are now, for sure. So as a lot of these different businesses have come and gone from the downtown and various restaurants and retailers and service providers, one constant for nearly 4 decades now has been Banbury Fair along Railroad Avenue, which they reminded me was not always located at their current location, but formerly located at the former building that's no longer there at 121 Railroad Avenue, in the building that was occupied for many years by Lucky Jack's. They expanded and relocated in 1987, where the Sufferans have owned and operated this highly unique business ever since. So also I should mention their business partner, Sandy, is with them tonight as well. As one of the longest tenured businesses in the village, they also happen to have 2 of the oldest building structures in the area. the Sufferns have, and Ms. Braun have certainly succeeded in keeping this business viable and timely. They have been highly adaptable over the years. You've seen a lot of tenants also within the building. There have been children's party businesses, and there have been candy stores. There have been individual retailers who've had their own little areas within Banbury Fair for their own smaller store within it. And currently, they have a coffee shop also as a tenant inside Banbury Fair. So we applaud them for being flexible and changing with the times, and it's a far different business in 2022 and moving forward than it was throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So they've also, I should mention, anytime you see a downtown event going on, ladies' nights out, Heritage Days, Small Business Saturday, fashion shows, you always see them forefront in that. They have a stage. They host all types of events over there. So that's just a little bit, the tip of the iceberg of the background of Banbury Fair. And I'll leave it all to your imaginations to contemplate all the things they've done and accomplished over these many years. In terms of this BEDA application, now going on about a year and a half ago, they had decided to make the barn into a more economically viable location, to put in some type of business that attracts more customers to the downtown and to their corner over there. And they decided that the avenue they would take would be to bring in some type of food and or a beverage type of business. They started off with a concept for doing a wine-oriented business. They put together a video, did some recruiting. The village blasted out their video too, and also in an email blast for a good opportunity there at the barn. I think only the folks at Banbury Fair know how many people came to kick the tires and look around the barn throughout the early period of the pandemic. I knew of probably 6 or 7 on my own, and there were several more that looked at taking over the barn space for various types of food or wine type of concepts. So after going through that process, they finally settled on a well-known local restaurateur who's been in the village also now for about 15 years with a number of different restaurants in various locations, Rakesh Chopra. And he began pursuing the barn as a potential redevelopment location to open a new eating and drinking establishment. I should mention that his concept is called Le Petit Resto Bar Tapas. It's a mouthful. He's gone through already through the public hearing process and the village board. He presented the concept, and he'll later most likely be before the EDC for a follow-up BEDA application to this. So consider this application is infrastructure related and creating the guts to upgrade this very old historic property into a more modern one. And as I flip to the next page in the report, I'm not going to go into great detail on every single expenditure, but somewhat generalize them because they add up to a very large amount. So because the buildings and adjoining properties are old, as I had mentioned, over 100 years old, they lack the necessary infrastructure to meet the current building and health codes for a business that serves food and drinks to customers. As they pursued it, it's fair to say the project became more costly as they looked into the various code requirements and meeting health and safety codes, fire suppression, and more importantly, or equally importantly, all the plumbing requirements in the water and sewer to the site. So the main items that require upgrades for what we're going to call the first phase of this project are mainly plumbing related and also include a massive amount of concrete work, bringing water and sewer to the property from Hickory Avenue, and general plumbing improvements. There's a lot of attached estimates. What they add up to is $250,000. But the project cost, bless you, for the purposes of this, I had looked at the cost to be $242,000. Early last year, we did make a few amendments to the BEDA program. If you recall, we brought to the EDC, we added a few things. We shortened the length from 3 years to 2 years. We added an extra provision for a veteran-owned businesses, and we made a few other little tweaks in terms of the text within the document. But one thing we didn't do was add architectural or engineering costs. So I still minus those out. The $250,000 that they propose includes those costs, which I subtracted. I'm gonna, as I said, go kind of quickly through the meat of the estimate. There's a page in the packet that really breaks all of the items down to 4 items. And the biggest one, number 4, again, being $242,548. That is an estimate from a builder named Mark Leffler, whose company is called Skillcraft. And that's the major cost of this, and he's also broken it down, the $242,000. But as I mentioned, it also included architects, surveying, and something that is eligible, $800 for fire alarm conduit. But again, the $242,000, he further breaks that down on another estimate to include all the trim, landscaping, asphalt, the profit on the labor, so to speak, is about $40,000. This includes some demolition work for a small, what I'm going to call annex room on the west side of the barn. And that's the area that's going to be converted into what I'm going to call a new building. It includes the washrooms. You can see bringing sewer from Hickory's $15,000, water from Hickory $15,000, $24,000 in concrete work. I know the petitioners might not want to hear me listing out all these huge expenses, but there's $36,000 worth of plumbing, $25,000 worth of carpentry, $15,000 worth of carpentry materials, $15,000 more for roofing, fascia, soffit, and gutters. Of course, there's HVAC, electrical, drywall, and $10,000 of tiling. And as you've seen before here on these BEDA grants, specifically for restaurants, when you build out the infrastructure, the costs add up fairly quickly. So with all that in mind, again, I went fairly quickly, but considering the size and the scope and the massive investment that the owners of Banbury Fair, the Sufferns and Sandy are making in this building, it's really is well in excess of the amount that we would want them to spend to recommend the maximum grant amount of $50,000, but also adding that obviously this isn't some new restaurateur or new business person that you're seeing for the first time, or that you're hearing they have one business in another community and they're opening their second or perhaps their third location. These are people who you see standing at the business from open to close every day of the week. And as I said, if you go to any of the downtown events, you're going to see them. We're really happy to be working with them on this project. And so, again, we're recommending the maximum BEDA grant amount of $50,000 on this. And for any of the particular details, if there's flooring or any particular questions about the construction, they are all intimately familiar with it. And if you'd like to hear from the petitioner, I'm sure they'd be glad to answer any of your questions.
I've got just a couple of questions, and first I want to thank the Sufferings for doing this. I mean, obviously, since my husband and I have lived here for almost 30 years, we've enjoyed Banbury Fair, and certainly not just your commitment to the community, but the diversity of services and goods that you've brought to us as well. So my first question, and this might feel a little bit uncomfortable, is I'm assuming the property is off the market, correct? Because it had been marketed several years ago, and there's still intention for it to remain within the Suffern family.
Bruce, go. Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then for the specific build-out, and it's very exciting because I've been in the barn so many times and really appreciate the historical significance of it. Is this build-out specific to food and beverage service and entertainment, or does should a restaurant fail, could it be retrofitted for, again, more retail? And by all means, please.
Bruce, make sure the green light's on.
It is. Thank you for your kind words. Because of the pandemic, the antique barn, as it was known for 30 years, very successful using the unique atmosphere, ambiance. We had to let that renter go because of the pandemic, as we had to let 2 other renters go because of the pandemic. So the whole pandemic kind of changes your long-term business plan to a certain degree, right? All these different retail industries are changing dramatically, including antiques, including retail. Everybody knows about online. So as we project into the future, you know, and we live in Bartlett, we live a mile away from there for 40 years. I like to say I bleed Bartlett blood. You know, I love this community, I do. And I want nothing more than that for that corner across from Moore Brewing to be the place to go in the northwest suburbs. And so that's what we're going for. We're not just going for something here. Rockish has got great plans, but as you say, what happens if the Rockish thing fails? The village informed me when we first we first asked them about a different business in the barn, that because we changed the business in the barn, that the agreement that we had for a long time of using the bathrooms in the shop no longer would apply. So in order for us to rent that barn out for anything, it has to have a bathroom.
Sure.
And so we evaluated buying a bathroom trailer. That does not comply with the codes. So I don't know exactly what, if it wasn't food related, what might qualify. But every time we've talked to the building department or the plumbing inspector, regardless of what is put in there, if somebody is selling soaps and perfumes in the barn, it would have to have a bathroom. So this application is first and foremost to continue to make that, what I think is a treasure in the downtown, viable. It has to have this. It has to have these bathrooms.
Oh, I'm not disputing that at all. I was just really making an inquiry regarding the flexibility of the space after the improvements
You know what, it could be anything. Right now, it is what it is, but you take out what's in there now, and it's open space. You know, we put in new doors and windows, gutted all the electric is out. We have an advanced fire alarm system in there now, new fixtures, outdoor lighting. So any of that is applicable to any business that would want to go in.
Okay, great. And how many seats are you anticipating having for indoor and outdoor seating? What's the vision for that?
Well, we had to comply with the villages. We had to submit through an architect drawings and passageways and what have you. So the capacity inside the barn, I think, is 48. Outside the barn, in our gardens out there, is about 60. And we want to use one of the old outbuildings that we have out there that the goats used to live in. I don't know if you remember the goats.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, sure.
So the goat house is going to have a different use, which will be a waitress stop to service the tables outside.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any further questions that you'd like to ask? Any clarifications?
Mr. Suffren, I'm Bob Perry. I've been in the real estate business for over 40 years. I think you know me, and I know you. And I just want to say I want to thank you for staying in Bartlett and spending the kind of money that you need to make a viable business. Bartlett appreciates it.
Thank you.
And with Mr. Chopra, who knows the business, I'm sure that you're going to be successful. My question is, these numbers, they look fairly good. And I don't think you might have a little extra work to do as you go along, but I think for a starting figure, it's a pretty good figure.
Thank you.
My other question is this, what is the business relationship with you and Mr. Chopra as far as the building is concerned?
Well, I know Rakesh since he had Tipsy Monkey, when he first opened back by Savory over there. So, one of the things that Jan and I are kind of, whenever I see a retailer or a business person who does a superlative job, I want to meet that guy, and I want to say good job. So I did with him there, and we became friends, he and I. And so even as he moved over to the town center, we continued our relationship. We always blue-skied about him sometime moving over by us and combining the goodwills of both his business and our business together. So when I bounced the idea off Tony and Scott about this in the barn, I recruited him to come on over and look at it. And he saw it. I mean, he fell in love with it. And so he asked for a long-term lease. Now, that lease is going to change dramatically as a result of the expense of the build-out, and he understands that. So he has a long-term lease on the barn. He has a long-term lease on the apartment above the shop. So we have a real nice, when we renovated the building in 06, 07, to take advantage of the tax laws. We have a real nice 3-bedroom apartment above the shop, which he rents. So his long-term concept is to live there and make that his primary focus, and then the one that's in the streets of Bartlett would be secondary.
Okay.
All the cooking, by the way, because we have restrictions on cooking in the barn, which is all wood, even though we have a fire alarm system. So all the frying of the foods, flame, all of that, would all occur at Bovino. And the kitchen area that we have behind the barn, in the back rooms of the barn, would take that already cooked food, keep it warm. So at the barn, the barn would more or less be prepping dishes as opposed to cooking the dishes there on site. He has no problem thinking that he can do it. He's catered and he's done all sorts of things in the past, but it won't be your traditional restaurant. You won't see anybody frying up anything in the back.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of different concept. The other thing that's kind of exciting, that's part of all of this, is the village also approved us in years past. My daughter got married 12. And so she wanted to have her wedding reception at the shop. So I did some work and went to the village to get rezoned for banquet for our outdoors. So our outdoor parking lot and the Hickory lot is all set up for tents to host wedding receptions or different parties as well. The village has approved us for 6 of these a year, 6 of these events a year.
Do you think you have sufficient parking there?
You know, right now, we have all the parking in the world. And I know when I attended the Moore hearings about parking, 2 things. One, I'd love to see every parking lot full, because that means people are in the area, and it's our job as a business to try to attract them in. And 2, if they want to come in your shop bad enough, there's lots of places to park. I mean, right now, the whole place is empty. You know, downtown Bartlett is a ghost town from a parking standpoint. I look forward to the day when all those parking lots are full. The extra lot that the village owns that's earmarked to being parking next to the one lot they already have in front of our property, that's 25 odd spaces right there as well. So when more brewing comes in, is that going to be a lot of cars? It is, you know, and look forward to that.
One nice thing about the Metro lot is that all 750 spots are free all weekend and after 11 a.m. during the week. We made that change a few years ago, anticipating further growth. So the entire parking lot is free, all 750 spots.
Oh, pardon the pun here, but let's make that a parking lot issue for discussion later. Metro parking specifically. If the dais would approve me bringing this up, I've been downtown on Friday nights several times in December, and the majority of the Metro lot was cordoned off, so you couldn't park in there.
That was a cost savings measure. Right now, I think last week we had about 86 cars parking in our parking lot, compared to what we were at our peak about 5 years ago, which was like, I think 500. So we block off some of the lots during the winter season. We let residents know via our BART letter and our website. We also posted signage at the train station and spoke to a lot of the commuters as well, handing out maps. So there are a few parking lots that during the winter, we're going to save tax dollars and not maintain. During the spring and summer, when we need the parking, those lots will be open, but they were closed only during the winter as a cost savings measure.
I see.
There's no reason for us to remove snow in certain lots when they're not being utilized.
Yeah, this was just before Christmas when things were really pretty busy downtown, so I just thought it was kind of interesting that we were parking on the street over off of Eastern to go to 120 Live. Because everything on the, that was open, that was available to patrons on the Metro lot that runs, all the parking that runs completely, the first line that runs parallel to the tracks was taken all the way going down to the water tower. Which again, a good problem to have, but,
And that's also to keep in mind that the village does do a really good job promoting that all of the Metro parking lot is available on the weekends and after 11, really encouraging people to know that.
sure,
You can-
available, but again, if everybody's not aware that there's going to be limited parking, when there's an assumption that it's there, without having to go to the website.
Does anyone else have further questions that you'd like to ask or clarifications? Okay. All right. If there's no further conversation about this and no further questions for Bruce, I think the next thing that we need to do is move on and see if somebody would like to make a motion.
A motion?
Motion to approve the beta for 50,000? Yes. Okay. We have a first, a second from Nan. Okay, Tony, can you call for a vote?
Kirsten Erickson,
In favor?
Robert Perry,
Yes.
Tracy Smedilla,
Yes?
Nanette Gutenkoff, Joel Laporte. Yes. Adam Lowensky, Michelle Hughes,
Yes.
and Robert Gorski.
Yes.
Great, thank you. And for the petitioners, we'll be forwarding your request with the EDC's recommendation to the board in early February.
Thank you for your investment in Bartlett.
Thank you for staying in Bartlett.
Thank you.
And I would like to say, I have had a tour of the barn. It does look really cool. It still has the nice historic feel to it. It still has that exact same vibe and everything, but you can definitely see people are going to enjoy it.
The barn going to be open tomorrow? I'll be there. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, Jan, your gloves.
Gloves.
All right, let's move on to the Mary and Bright review.
Thank you. So this year was kind of the first year that we really tied, all of our different winter events together as, one under one umbrella, which was Merry and Bright. So we just wanted to kind of report back and kind of give a recap of everything that went on. This was far and away our most attended tree lighting we've ever seen. Nan and I were over at the cocoa, and normally we go through about, we have 2 full jugs of cocoa, and we pour half of one out at the end of the night. And Nan was coming up to me, I'd say 30 minutes into the event, and we had gone through 5 tubs or 5-gallon coolers of cocoa, so we had to go back to Bartlett Hills and make some more. So we went through over 40 gallons of cocoa, and we probably could have done more if we had more. We gave out 1,500 cookies from Rebecca's Cakes by Design, and 600 hot dogs from the Dogfather were also given out. So just far and away our most attended tree lighting we've ever had. And I added in there, we even had a marriage proposal up in the gazebo, so that was a fun addition to it. And we also sold merchandise here at Village Hall, kind of commemorating everything, and different ornaments and things like that. And I think we could say the same success can be attributed to our sold-out Cocoa Crawl. We had about 200 people signed up, and from what I heard from the library, everybody, 95% of the people signed up showed up. So everybody signed up and went to the event, and we went around to the 25 different businesses that participated, and I didn't really hear a bad word about it. It sounded like every business we went and visited said, it sounded like people went all over Bartlett, all the way out to Magnum Realty, kind of on the edge of town there, to down by Route 59 as well. Town and Country Gardens mentioned, having a great number of people in, as well as all the downtown businesses. So it sounded like it brought, a lot of people into the different businesses, and everybody else, all the business I talked to also said that people spent money while they were in each individual business. So a lot of people got some last minute Christmas shopping done. And then one other thing we added was we also did an online interactive holiday decorating contest for the businesses and the homes as well. And we've been sending out gift cards to the winners of those. So, I mean, really, our first year, we would all say was a success, and we just wanted to give that recap.
I heard a lot of great things about it, from, friends that I know that have businesses in town, and they appreciated the fact that people were, again, like you said, they were spending money, which I think is really the purpose of event marketing like this. And hopefully the nuts and bolts of this are firmly in place, that it can be replicated to, other seasons beyond Merry and Bright. I mean, almost making it like a plug and play where we've got something that's going on downtown. I remember a few years ago, we did the world record whistle train blowing
National Night
thing,
Out.
which
Yeah.
there were several thousand people down there, and it was just so much fun. And I think that was even outside of the National Night Out activities.
Yeah, it was in the National Night Out.
Yeah.
And we actually, I don't know if it was, I think it was formally announced, we won National Night Out again this year.
Nice. Well done.
So kudos to everybody that participated, certainly staff and Chamber of Commerce that really worked hard to pull this together, because, the feedback that I got was fantastic, and it's more proof that event marketing works to bring people into the downtown area.
I'd absolutely like to add, too, that, without the chamber and the library and the Park District and, everybody who kind of got together for this event, we couldn't have done it without all their help.
Yeah, and we participated in it, and it was really nice. We were talking to a lot of the people who were coming in, because as a bank, it was a little bit different for us. We didn't prepare cocoa or anything like that. We had a little cocoa and a little note with a candy cane that we gave them, and a lot of people liked that, because they're like, okay, I'm kind of done with the cocoa right now. My tummy is a little full. But a lot of them were saying they walked into places they have never walked into before. A lot of them, some of the different restaurants, it just wasn't like a restaurant that they would normally think of going to. They tried the cocoa, and they're like, oh, I'm going to go back. I spoke to a couple of the restaurants, and they were like, yeah, there were some good extra sales, so hopefully they'll expand upon it next year. Some of those retailers will be a little bit smarter, maybe have gift card specials that night to really drive home some additional sales. But everyone who was coming into the bank was really, really happy with it.
Yeah, something that the businesses that I talked to, they said they, a lot of them offered kind of a special that revolved around Merry and Bright or Cocoa Crawl. The folks over at 120 Live did a special adult cocoa. Pasta Mia was offering a lunch special. So people are saying, yeah, again, like you said, we were cocoed out, but we still wanted to go into the businesses and kind of see what they had going on, and have a cocktail instead of a cocoa.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of people who definitely tried some new places. And a lot of people were building into their lunch. They were like, okay, we're going to go to these places, then we're going to stop here for lunch, and then we're going to hit these places up. So it was really nice. The comments that people were making were really, and we were signing away in all the little passports. They were really making sure they were checking different places that they hadn't. The passport was a nice touch, because it really kind of made them think about, oh, I forgot about that place is participating too. Let me stop in there.
And when we went around and collected all the different passports, flipping through them, it looked like, most of them had almost all of the businesses, stamped off in there. So it really seems like people took the time to go to all those different businesses.
That's great.
Good event, for sure. All right. Anything in new business? I wanted to ask, with, COVID coming back again this year, obviously, I know last year we did the sales tax rebate. Has there been any talk about something like that for the businesses again this year? Is there any discussions happening, or?
Not at this time, other than advertising the BEDA program to everybody. Not all businesses are created equal. Some are up, or some are down. Our sales tax numbers are looking pretty good. Our business community's been resilient, and part of that was probably the efforts that went along with that first stage of business help and the work that Nan and Mary do over at the chamber. But certainly our phone lines are always open, and we sent out in terms of pandemic-related response and funding from both from the village, the county, and the state. I think we've sent out 110 or so related pandemic emails. So our communication's pretty robust, and we'll always be looking for opportunities for them. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it does. I was just wondering, if that was something that was being thought about, where were we with the sales tax revenue? If it was something that thought was warranted or anything on that situation.
I'm curious about the village's official response to the Cook County vaccine mandate for only certain businesses. It just seems like that, Commissioner Sean Morrison he issued a public statement stating that the commission as a whole was not, or the board as a whole was not, did not vote on that. That was a unilateral decision by President Preckwinkle and the Cook County Department of Health. Has there, and I saw basically one repeat of what the Cook County mandate was, and there's been nothing specific from the village. I don't know if they anticipate doing that, but I find it just pretty difficult that there would be this profound government overreach that's continuing to impact our restaurants and our gyms, and it's picking winners and losers in our town. When you consider we've got Kane, we've got Cook, and we've got DuPage businesses.
Our response has been consistent from day one of the pandemic, which is enforcement via education. We certainly take complaints. We talk to businesses. To this point in time, to my knowledge, since the mandate was activated on, I think on 1/3, we haven't had any complaints. I think our business community knows where we stand in terms of supporting them. But yeah, just enforcement via education. And that's what we've done since day one. At every time the target has moved, underreach, overreach, people upset, people happy, people mad, it's just been a lot of education and availability.
And who's enforcing that? Is the village enforcing that, or is that being done by the county?
I would imagine it's based on the nature of the complaint. If we have a village resident that wants to complain about a mandate, we'll talk to the business and pass that along.
The village employs a full-time health officer who typically receives those complaints. But as you mentioned, because Bartlett is within various counties, I suppose a person could make a complaint directly to a county if they chose, and that did happen more than once in 2020 where county inspectors, we didn't have any food-related businesses in Kane County at that point. We are going to have one. The True North is going to have some food service, so I suppose we'll have our first food company in Kane County soon. But occasionally we were informed by various county health departments that they had paid a visit. And as Scott mentioned, they were more educational in nature than punitive.
Yeah, our health inspector actually, beyond the email that you had mentioned, actually goes to whenever we have a new mandate of any significance. He actually goes to each business and just talks to them, just education.
Any further questions?
Tony, you have anything new regarding West Bartlett Road and 59?
Yes, I'm smiling because you usually ask that at the meetings. You all recall that about a year ago we were talking, we referred to that as the Crown property, the largest undeveloped parcel here in Bartlett, and it's also within Cook County. We had Pulte submitting a year ago and going through the subdivision process and coming before the various commissions with their concept plan, which never went through the entire formal approval process, but showed the concept plan to the village board, who was supportive of it and basically ready for them to move forward. Also, as you recall, probably in August or September, they pulled the plug on their project. It's not here tonight that I'm going to announce exactly what's going to happen with it, but the Crown community development people and their brokers put it back out on the open market. It's a very serious and large and expensive site with a lot of details to it, so it can only be a certain amount of, certain type of home builder that can take down a site of that nature. And they did have multiple bids, and we're being informed now that one of the interested parties is planning on moving forward, kind of picking up the ball where Pulte left it off 6 months ago or so. So that's something I know we certainly hope to share more details later in the year on that. Of course, the village would like to see that site developed. And, it's a big open site now, right at one of the biggest intersections in town. That could help the village in so many ways, besides, adding population. When we talk about business here, that's something that makes the village look more attractive to businesses, and also, of course, creates new customers for existing businesses. So, long story short, we're hopeful and optimistic that a home builder is going to move forward on that site in 2022.
What about the construction on the corner there? Is that moving forward this year? As far as
Which
the
corner are you
the
referring?
intersection with the lights and everything? Isn't there supposed to be done
I
something?
believe there is a letting to the state on that this year. Our Public Works Director, I think, would have all of that information. But I recall the board asks frequently at their meetings the status of that, and Scott might remember, but I believe the state is letting that project out to bid this year.
That's correct. It's made it approved in the capital budget for IDOT. They're going to begin work in 2022. Whether that work is something visible as you drive by, I'm not sure. Like Tony said, that would be the Public Works Director would be able to answer that. But we are finally in their books, in their budget, approved, funded, planned. So we're excited to see that intersection not only be a lot safer, but also a lot more efficient as well.
Thank you.
Sorry, speaking of Cook County, I'm curious to know how the meeting went between business owners and the Cook County Assessor's Office at the end of, I think it was mid to late November.
At the township, you said?
Yes, I believe it was held at the township.
Well, to be completely honest, I was the only one that showed up from the village of Bartlett. We emailed our business community. We called a lot of the folks, and we also spoke to them about it in person too. And nobody was really there. Well, forgive me. There is one office building that is located in Westgate was there. So forgive me. There was one other business there, but I was able to talk to them. I have their contacts. I've talked a little bit with their staff about the challenges that we face and our businesses face, and how we'd like to see them supported. Move the needle a lot? Probably not, to be honest with you. But I do know that they have some new systems in place that will allow for more automation. They're getting away from some of that paper and pen stuff where you had to go and, you go over to the county office, the assessor's office, you see boxes of thousands and thousands and thousands of sheets of paper. So they're talking about having their field agents. I asked them when their field agents are in town to let us know about it, so we could at least talk to them about some of the properties that they're judging and perhaps some of the misconceptions that they're getting in these buildings, because some of the tax rates that our businesses pay are, I mean, even for Cook County, it's absolutely ridiculous. So it did excite me to learn that some of their field agents are going to be having tablets, be able to actually upload information and get to, you know, they're in the 80s, at least they're coming into the 2000s. So maybe some of those things will move the needle a little bit, but no, I was, not much Bartlett people there at all. But we certainly made sure that the folks that have had the hardest times that have called Tony, we made sure that we let them know about the meeting and where it was and what time it was, and if they had any questions or if they couldn't be there to let us know, and we'd ask questions on their behalf. But I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's, I guess I'm not overly surprised that nobody showed, particularly since it was outside of the assessment period for Hanover Township specifically. I know that my husband and I, we appealed our property taxes, and we should have had an answer by, I believe, November 1st, and we just got it a few days ago. It was on delay, and, you know, and that's with an attorney working on it. So, yeah, so hopefully Mr. Kagi is bringing the office out of the Stone Age.
It's kind of crazy to think that they don't have tablets, that they're going out and doing the visits, and they still have to do it all by paper. That'll definitely be a nice efficiency to have. Anything further? All right, the last item on our list is a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.